This is a Scots pine, Pinus sylvestris, which somehow found its way into Sebastian's garden. It was collected by myself about 38 years ago, a long time ago. And 35 years ago, I planted this little tree, was very little, like this finger, on this rock, thinking that in the end, it should not look like somebody planted a tree on the rock, but it should look like, did you find that tree? I mean, how wonderful nature does it to put these roots there, because they actually did grow naturally, and it looks like they're naturally. You cannot fake this easily, or very quickly, only over many, many years. You make sure you don't plant it on top of a rock. It's better to plant it on the side. I think with hindsight, at that time, I was not very advanced. While I was advanced relative to the others at that time, but if I see what I know now, then I would still probably do the same. The only thing that I would not do is take a rock which is whitish. I would take a darker one. Otherwise, it's still fine. So this was one of the famous trees already 30 years ago. It went into the famous book by Werner Busch, and some people may have seen it before. Okay, so at the moment now we have a very old-looking pine tree which sits on a rock. We don't know quite why, but it looks like it always sat on that rock, and that's exactly what it should look like. I had it for many, many years in a normal, regular bonsai pots, and I decided to plant it onto this sort of slab by Walter Pall, which I like very much, which is carefully chosen to somehow fit with this rock. It should not look like a very radical. It is different, but not like it's very strange. I don't think it's strange. And I did fix it. As you can still see, there's this strong wire. So my first advice is, if you're a daring person, take that wire off. Probably it's on there since 3 or 4 years. It should be okay, because that wire is ugly. As you see, it's loose. It's not necessary. Okay. Now, of this tree, over all these 35 years or so, was wired quite often, fully, like 4, 5, 6 times, and it was not wired the last 3 years. Now it looks slightly untidy. So you did not get a finished tree that you can take right away and put it in a show. I think what you actually should do, if you want to make this show ready, is to pluck some needles and wire the whole tree fully and put it in position. Try to not make it look too much like a licked bonsai, too nice, almost plastic look. This should be a more natural tree, and make sure it's always longer on this side and shorter on this side. Many people make the mistake to balance the trees too much, because the book tells you you must balance. So they overdo it, and then the tree falls asleep. How do you overdo it? Well, you let this grow to have a counterweight to this, and then you let it grow bigger. And then the tree falls asleep, and it doesn't really look like a tree anymore. It looks like a bush on a rock. So make sure you make it shorter here, longer here. Make sure you don't want it any denser. So you say, well, are not the Japanese trees much denser than this? Yes, they are. So the first thing, that if you ever gave me a tree like this, which is very dense, I would cut out more than 50% of the foliage. Yes, I would. So make sure it must not be any denser. This is already too dense. So I would pluck needles, and then it's getting very loose, transparent again. You want to see into the ground through these things. So you want to see the structure. If you don't see the structure anymore, it's too dense.
So is it okay to remove some smaller branches?
It's perfect.
To open the structure?
It's perfectly okay to do that.
At what time? When is the best time to do that with the Scots pine?
Well, honestly, the best time When you have a pair of scissors in your hand,
Okay.
any time you
During
can
the
cut.
winter, yeah.
Anytime. I hear this often, Mr. Paul, when is the best time to cut? And my answer is, whenever you have some cutting device in your hand. They think it's a joke. No. I mean, why? For some reason, people think there is a best time to cut because there is some esoteric sort of things are floating around, like only with full moon and all this thing. I don't believe in any of that. I have some friends who actually do that, but they don't impress me much with their trees. So you can do that anytime, and the rest is fine. So a Scots pine is a very nice and easy tree to have if it's established. They are tricky when you collect them and when you plant them. Some die after collecting, and after first styling some branches die, but this is a long time ago. When they are established, they are very tough trees. Put them in full sun. You must water them, of course, but it's okay for a Scots pine if it dries out a bit. It's okay. And don't be worried that it dries out easily on this rock. There's plenty of roots there and plenty of substrate which hold some moisture.
When was this one reported last time?
Well, in 4 years when I put it on the rock.
4 years. And how long should I leave it there?
Well, how long you want to live? I mean, like the next 30 years?
So it can be easily for 8 or 10 years.
20 years.
In the same substrate.
20 years, no joke.
Okay.
We don't want it to be very healthy, and we want this to look like a very old tree. So that's okay. It will at one point sort of stop growing happily, so it doesn't matter.
So could be easily 10 years, 20 years.
Yes, no problem. Again, why would I know that? Because of course that's radically contrary to what you're being taught in bonsai. Because I don't listen to bonsai people. I'm a mountain boy and I grew up in the mountains. And there is millions of trees which grow on rocks for centuries and nobody repots them. So can you tell me why you must repot this as long as it's alive? Well, yeah, if you want this wonderful, healthy, broccoli-like growth, then you must do something. But simply by feeding this, you already achieve quite a lot, because nobody even feeds these trees on the rocks in the mountains. It is a historical tree. So that is one of the very earliest bonsai in Europe ever. I mean, for 35 years ago, not many...
83 or 80
something, yeah. So that's extremely early, and that is sort of has some values, not to everyone, but to you obviously. So this was in books already in the 80s, in the end of the 80s. Okay, so keep it well. Apply some acid, because again it's getting very, very green, full of algae, but it's very easy to take these off. Okay, you water it like normally, not more than normal, just water. You feed it with...
Can I just put organic fertilizer in small pellets all over the substrate?
You can, not much, please.
Okay.
Also...
Why? It will start to grow hard?
We don't want this to grow too much. So you can feed this a little with organic, whatever that is, anything that smells, okay, that's organic. Or also chemical fertilizer is fine, okay, and the best thing would be to fertilize a little bit every day, but for practical reasons...
That we can achieve with organic.
You can't, yeah. On the other hand, organic, you have the following problem. First of all, it smells for a week or so. Then it is not very nice. It looks ugly. I don't like all these fertilizing bags around. I think it's terrible. It really spoils the whole view. And the birds take it, and the dogs smell it. So it's a bit painful. So I try to keep this to a minimum. And it does not need that in order to grow. I mean, where the hell do you want this to grow? This is it. Whenever something grows, we cut it back. So we did speak about hornbeams that we feed in order to let them grow and cut back. Why is that? Because we want to develop these trees. We want them to be more ramified. We want them to be thicker. This is developed. That's it. So we more or less want to keep him like this. So now we slow down in everything, in feeding, and don't push him.
Yeah. Can we achieve even shorter needles with this type of tree or not?
Well, exactly what I just told you is the method. You don't
repot it for a long time.
Don't repot it forever. Don't really feed it much, or if at all, be nice to put it in full sun, and it will look sparse, and it will sort of almost starve, and it will get this very natural feeling of an old tree, but not like a very youngish looking, powerful Japanese tree which is way too dense. You don't want that here. Okay? Thank you.